January the 27th, 2026. Welcome back to the Two Witnesses Live. I'm your host, Watchful. And it's that time once again for your daily Torment report, where we cover the posts and news regarding the two men who are tormenting the world the most, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Should be a pretty short day. Typically during the week, they don't post a whole lot. They do traveling and speaking engagements and stuff like that. So their posts tend to be a little bit less, making for a shorter day. And we're also going to do something a little bit different on the addressing the house of Israel. We're starting to look at, well, we've been looking at the upcoming opening of seal number 5, what seems to be the start of the Great Tribulation. And by taking into account everything that's going on around the world today, what could that mean? And there's a lot of attention on Iran right now. So we're going to visit our good friend, Yisrael Goldstein, who posted a video from the Crown Prince of Iran talking about what's going on over there. And we're also going to talk about candidates for the Little Horn because it's relevant. So this should be a pretty exciting day. And with that, let's get into our daily torment report with Donald Trump.
Through shadows deep, through bitter years, I see your strength.
All right, we're going to start. We're just going to go top down on their posts because there's not a whole lot to cover. I think Donald, last time I checked, he had 3 posts. So, all right, this first one is a pinned post from 2 days ago. We've already read this. Do a little touch up. It says, I'm building on top of everything else that I'm doing one of the great and most beautiful ballrooms anywhere in the world. So he has pinned this post to the top of his feed because he really wants people to know that this is a work of love and not a burden on the people of America. It's a labor of love. And he also doesn't want it to be inhibited by the people who are trying to stop him from working on this gift. All right, 4 hours ago, he posted, I'm hearing that the great country of Iraq might make a very bad choice by reinstalling Nouri al-Maliki as prime minister. Last time Maliki was in power, the country descended into poverty and total chaos. That should not be allowed to happen again because of his insane policies and ideologies. If elected, the United States of America will no longer help Iraq, and if we are not there to help, Iraq has zero chance of success, prosperity, or freedom. Make Iraq great again. And then 7 hours ago, he posted this 11-minute video. We'll see how much we play. After this, we don't have really anything else, so we may play all of it. There are some videos that he posted today on the White House that might be worth our attention. We'll see how it goes. Let's go.
First Lady Melania Trump joins us now for an exclusive interview. Good morning to you, Madam First Lady.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm excited about the movie. I hope to go see it this weekend. But first, let's talk about some of the news that's happening around our country. And let's start with what's happening in Minnesota. There are these protests. There are these shootings. The world is divided. There's pressure on both sides. You have talked a lot about coming together and being respectful. And your husband yesterday had a way to maybe bring some calmness to that area, contacting the governor, contacting the mayor, hopefully working together. What is your message for America about unifying both sides?
We need to unify. I'm calling for unity. I know my husband, the president, had a great call yesterday with the governor and the mayor, and they're working together to make it peaceful and without riots. I'm against the violence, so if we protest in peace. And we need to unify in these times.
Mm-hmm. This past weekend, we saw this monster storm just pummel so many states across our country. 34 people, as of this morning, have died. 500,000 are still without power. 28,000 flights have been canceled. That's the most since COVID. And we watched you when you went to the flood zones in North Carolina, when you visited those precious girls at Camp Mystic down in Texas. You went to the fires, the Palisade fires in California, Las Vegas for the shootings during the first term. I know you went to Puerto Rico during the floods in the first time. So what is your message to Americans who are suffering right now?
I feel deep compassion for the people who are impacted by this storm. I know that federal government is working hard to provide assistance to all who need it. And as Americans, we need to help each other and come together in these difficult times.
You have decided.
I send them.
Go ahead, sorry.
I send them my strength and love and thinking of them. And I know that they will be okay. And here we are. The government is here helping. So I hope the weather will get better soon.
Well, you have decided to pull back the curtain on what's happening in the administration. You take us behind the scenes. You show us so much, apparently, in this new movie that's coming out on Friday. The movie is called A New Film, Melania, and it's in theaters everywhere. We have all seen the trailer. You released that right here on Fox and Friends First recently. What can we expect, and why was this important to you? Because you're a very private person in many aspects.
This story was never told before. So the audience will see me, how I manage my business, my philanthropy, family, preparation for the inauguration, and also establishing the East Wing for the White House.
I don't know, this seems to be more about Melania than Trump, and it's not really tormenting, I guess. Not that you shouldn't go see her movie. It's just we've got other things to get on to. Hopefully you guys understand. 11 minutes is a lot of time to dedicate to that. So, especially since also her releasing her movie on Friday reminded me that Ben Davidson from Suspicious Observers released his movie today, The Disaster Cycle, along with some tools to be able to follow along with the research on the magnetic pole shift. So you can see here that he's got a little program here that you can actually see how far the magnetic pole has shifted. Started here, moved here, went up there, and then has traveled all the way over here. And then you've got some other statistics that you can add on here to see how things have been increasing. It's like quite literally a statistics leading to the new birth, the birth pains simulator. Anyway, you can come over here, you go under documentary, and you can watch this hour-long documentary. It is an hour and 12 minutes. I watched it today. It's very good. It does a good job explaining the disaster cycle, although I still think that their estimate is probably off, considering it looks like seal number 6 opens August 12th. And you can see their estimate in here, to where they are still estimating about 30 years, the reversal proximity. And the thing is anything can affect this. Like, we could get a solar blast that can cause this. We could have a series of earthquakes that move the Earth's crusts. Yeah, so, and I suspect that that's probably what's going to happen. But anyway, that became available today. Let's move on to the White House to watch some of the videos that he posted. He visited a restaurant and answered some questions for about 10 minutes. Let's have a look at that.
Say what?
Mr. President, why did you decide to shake up your leadership team in Minnesota and send Tom Homan?
I do that all the time. I shake up teams. Everybody here, these are a lot of owners of farms and places, and you shake up your team. If they can't do the crops fast enough, look, we have an incredible team. We did something that nobody said was possible. We didn't go back to Congress and ask for legislation. We closed the border. And in the last 8 months, they have, and this is actually hard to believe, nobody crossed the border, right? Nobody. They say nobody. I don't even know if that's possible. But you know, it's Democrats that do the report. It's a very liberal group that does that report. It's a very important report. And for 9 months, I guess 8 months, 9 months, we have nobody coming into our country unless they come in legally. We want them to come in. You need people to work for you. But we did something that I would say people thought that was absolutely impossible, and we were able to do it. So we're very honored by what's happened to our country. In addition, we have $18 trillion coming in, building plants, building auto factories, building AI factories. Like no other country in the world has done what we've done in the last year. And I think it's the most successful.
So there's money coming into the country that they're not actually including in that 18 trillion, as I understand it. Like money and assets that they've been seizing from drug lords and stuff like that. They're trying to figure out what to do with that money, but it's large sums of money.
First-term president. There's never been a year like this in the history of the country. He's been with me from the beginning, this guy. Make sure, take good care of him. He's been with me. So I'm going around, and I'm going around because hopefully we win the midterms. And it's very scary because, like, it's 2 out of 50 years or something like that. That's right. For some reason, when a president wins, Republican or Democrat, even if they're a good president, and hopefully I'm a great president, based on the first year I'm a great president. And we had a great first term, too. People don't know, we rebuilt our military. We had phenomenal financial numbers, but I think this term's blowing away really every term. But traditionally, when a president gets elected, out of, I think, 50 years, they've had 2 that won. I don't understand it.
You're going to be the next.
They've had 2, so we have to, and one was by unusual circumstance. So there's something psychological. If you win the president, whether you're Republican.
You know, I have to say that both he and Donald Trump and Elon Musk seem to have photographic memories. Do you guys get that sense? I've heard Elon's mom talk about his memory to where he just remembers everything he reads. But with the way that Trump remembers bizarre details, it would not surprise me if he doesn't have a photographic memory as well.
A Democrat. With that being said, the polls look very good. Everything looks very good, and you have great congressmen here, with congressmen and women here, and we love Iowa. We love Iowa. And I think didn't I just give the farmers $12 billion, right?
$66 billion in total.
Well, I gave total 66. That's right. But just recently, we gave the farmers $12 billion because they were treated unfairly by foreign countries. I said, how much? They said $12 billion. I said, they got it. You know where I got it? Tariffs. I got it from the tariffs. And again, you know, most of these, we right now have more factories and plants being built in our country.
We'll talk about the peace board.
That came in because they're coming because they don't want to pay the tariffs. So I said, if you build here, you don't have to pay tariffs. So it's great.
Mr. President, you talked a lot about...
Mr. President, with the current value of the dollar, do you think it's declined too much?
No, I think it's great. I mean, the value of the dollar, look at the business we're doing. No, dollar's doing great. You know, it's very interesting. If you look at China and Japan, I used to fight like hell with them because they always wanted to devalue their yen. You know that? The yen and the yuan. And they'd always want to devalue it. They devalue. And I said, not fair that you devalue because it's hard to compete when they devalue. But they always fought. No, our dollar's very good.
A lot about Minnesota, Mr. President. Some of your own administration officials have labeled Alice.
By the way, this is ABC fake. There's this one. She hasn't asked me a good question in years. I think a nice woman, but I don't really like her too much. Go ahead. What'd you say? I'd say ABC's about as bad as they get.
Would you like to see the dollar's value decline more? Would that be helpful?
No, I'd want it to be just seek its own level, which is the fair thing to do. You could have it. I could have it go up or go down like a yo-yo. I'll give you an example. Unemployment. I could create the greatest unemployment numbers or employment numbers ever. All I have to do is hire 3 million people and put them into the federal government, and you have 10 people, you know, for one job, right?
That's right.
And what we've done is we've cut the federal employees, and they've gone to the private sector. But if I wanted, I could hire 1 million people tomorrow, put them in the federal government, and she'd be writing a story. Unbelievable employment. Unbelievable employment.
Do you agree with the assessment?
But we have great unemployment numbers.
Yeah.
I think they're great. Is there one number that's bad? Can you tell? Is there one number that's bad? There's not one.
Do you agree with the assessment from some of your own officials that Alex Preddy is a domestic terrorist or an assassin?
Well, I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun. But hey, look, bottom line, everybody in this room
So Alex Preddy, if you're not familiar, I believe is the gentleman who was just shot in Minneapolis. He was carrying a 9mm, and it really seems like a series of unfortunate events. It does seem like it was an accident. However, it probably wasn't the brightest idea to be carrying where he was, because you can see what happens, especially when you're going into escalated situations. It's not like this is civil war. I mean, some people might think it is, but a lot of these people are paid or highly motivated by hatred to be doing these things. And man, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
We'd view that as a very unfortunate incident. Okay, everyone,
Yeah.
unless you're a stupid person, very, very unfortunate incident. I don't like that he had a gun. I don't like that he had 2 fully loaded magazines. That's a lot of bad stuff. And despite that, I say that's a very unfortunate.
Yeah, to be honest, like, I don't know if he was carrying that much ammo. I mean, I guess it's not out of the ordinary because we carry, our family and friends carry. Typically, we don't carry that many rounds. Maybe in the winter, I might, when I have a lot of extra baggy clothes to hide rounds. But to carry, 3 fully loaded magazines, that's a lot of ammo for a protest.
De facto president of Venezuela. I don't know, maybe you were joking when you said that. Is the U.S. a de facto member of OPEC right now?
Well, I'll tell you what, we are a very strong presence in Venezuela. We're going to get a lot of money for Venezuela. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, with the exception, I think, of our country.
Yep.
And it's bigger than Saudi Arabia. And we had a very strong moment with Venezuela a couple of weeks ago. And we are working beautifully with Venezuela. I will tell you, they're going to do better now than they ever did, than they've done ever at any point. And we're going to be making a lot of money for them and a lot of money for our country. We have a very good relationship with the leaders of Venezuela, and we're going to keep it that way.
What are your plans, Mr. President? What are your plans for Cuba, Mr. President?
Well, we're going to see what happens with Cuba. I don't know, anybody interested in Cuba in this room? Not too many people. This is not a Cuba room, but that's all right. There are plenty of them around, especially in Miami. And Cuba will be failing pretty soon. Cuba is really a nation that's very close to failing. You know, they got their money from Venezuela. They got the oil from Venezuela. They're not getting that anymore.
You were talking about the polls earlier. Clearly, your base is with you, strong as well. They're very
Stronger than. Oh, by the way, our base is with us. I think they're the best poll numbers, the real poll numbers. I think we have the best poll numbers we've ever had. Think of it, if I were to run again, would anybody be happy? You know, so we have the best poll numbers we've ever had. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
What an odd video. He just stops into a random restaurant in, was that, Iowa? I mean, cool. Good on him. That's pretty cool. All right, let's talk about the Board of Peace. I grokked it. So Trump's Board of Peace, often called the BOP, is a recently established international organization announced in January 2026 by President Donald Trump. It originated from his plan to resolve the Gaza conflict, including ceasefire implementation, reconstruction, and governance transition post-Israel-Hamas war. But its charter expands to a broader mandate for promoting global peace, stability, and conflict resolution. Trump chairs it permanently, with sole authority to invite members and nominate a successor, and it's been endorsed by the UN Security Council Resolution 2803. Though critics see it as potentially sidelining the UN. Duh. The board has 2 main components. The main board, composed of invited countries and states, there's around 60 invitations sent. No sub-Saharan African countries, likely due to their massive persecution of the whites. Membership is typically 3-year term unless a country pays $1 billion for permanent status. As of late January 2026, more than 20 to 35 countries have joined or committed, including Albania, Argentina, recently welcomed as a founding member. Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Belarus, Bulgaria, Egypt, Hungary, Indonesia, Israel, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu joining. Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, Mongolia, Morocco, Pakistan, Paraguay, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, Uzbekistan, and Vietnam. Others, like Russia, Vladimir Putin, invited and considering, possibly with a $1 billion contribution, and more, are under review or expressing interests. Founding Executive Board, the core operational leadership group, often highlighted as the key members or appointees. Trump has directly named Donald Trump as the chairman, Marco Rubio, U.S. Secretary of State, Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law advisor, Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Tony Blair, former UK Prime Minister, A.J. Banga, World Bank President, Mark Rowan, CEO of Apollo Global Management, Robert Gabriel, U.S. National Security Advisor and Deputy, and Nikolay Mladenov, High Representative for Gaza, former UN official. Additional senior advisors and roles include Arya Lightstone and Josh Gruenbaum, day-to-day strategy, and others like Major General Jasper Jeffers, commanding the International Stabilization Force. Many traditional U.S. allies, example much of Europe, Canada, France, UK in some capacities, have been reluctant or declined due to concerns it usurps UN roles, involves pay-to-play elements, or aligns with controversial figures and leaders. The board had held a signing ceremony at Davos in January 2026. Recent joiners as of late, January 2026, include Argentina as a founding member and ongoing acceptances from the places like the United Arab Emirates. The initiative remains fluid, with more countries potentially joining for the latest developments. So one of the things that I think this is interesting, and probably one of the reasons why you guys are bringing this up, is the Board of Peace seems like it's a good platform for when they say peace and safety. And with what's going on in Iran, and with what we know about Daniel 7, 8, and 9 in regards to the little horn, and the Great Tribulation and seal number 5, it seems like things are all coalescing to some more prophecy being fulfilled. All right. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to contribute to that or talk about? Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Let's see. Noah Leah Trevino, the witnesses walk among us, but still ain't ready. You may be right. I remain my stance on Donald Trump and Elon Musk is we're only paying attention to them because they fit some attributes. There's some attributes that they don't fit, such as like breathing fire, if that is to be literal, which I don't think it is. It's just not logistically possible. It would have to be supernatural. If two guys show up and they're breathing fire, I guarantee you our show is going to focus on them rather than Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Noah Leah Trevino, they are watching and waiting, but still being refined and prepared. It will be the last 42 months, not the first 3.5 years. Only the Father knows when to send the witnesses out, but not yet. Like I said, they come on the scene. We'll be the first to point it out because we're looking for them every single day. But in the meantime, Donald Trump and Elon Musk speak up every single day. They've got content for us, even if sometimes it's not that exciting. It is still true. And they do continue to torment the world. Let's see. Fury says it's shaping up. We're waiting to see all who joins. I know Russia accepted the invite and NATO wasn't happy about that. I was surprised that the security chief from NATO supported Trump and was really instrumental in that Initiative 2803 for the Board of Peace. That was a surprise because I could have swore I was thinking, this is what I was thinking, I don't know, 3 weeks ago before we really realized that we're likely going into the Great Tribulation. I was beginning to lean towards that security general of the what is it, the UN, initiating his special powers and doing something crazy, but that just doesn't seem to be the case now. I'm looking towards Iran, because that seems to be what's heating up. You know, the coalescence of this board of peace, and with what's going on in Iran, and how it relates to the little horn, and you'll see what I'm referring to. The little horn very likely comes out of Iran. It's one of the top 3 candidates. I know other people want to point to Trump and stuff like that, but they're just idiots. You'll see why when we get to that section tonight. Let's see. What else? Planet Neptune and Saturn are in conjunction around the 17th and may cause significant earthquake. Indeed. We are open. Let's see. All right. I think I covered everything. I don't see anything in here that you guys want to cover about the Board of Peace. Anything else? So we got 7 minutes left for Trump. Let's go see if we got any other interesting videos here. ICE going after the worst of the worst. Dangerous anti-ICE rhetoric from Mayor Frey and Governor Walz. How long is that? That's 1 minute. Pro-life leaders praise President Donald Trump. Don't really care about that. 4 days ago, 3 days ago. Let's listen to this.
In Minneapolis, we will not cooperate with ICE or any federal agency.
What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust.
These Border Patrol officers
Of course, I bear responsibility to bring down the temperature.
To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis.
Sure, that's part of my role as mayor. And by the way, protests here in Minneapolis are peaceful.
The desire to get out and protest and to speak up to this administration of how wrong this is, that is a patriotic duty. That is a patriotic duty.
Yeah, and it distracts from my billions of dollars of fraud.
Tens of thousands of people peacefully protesting.
Fully armed.
Yeah, they are going to stand up for their neighbors.
Oh, see, no, that's just not right.
This moment is very real. And from here on, I have a very simple message. We do not need any further help from the federal government.
You're saying this video was before the phone calls with Walz and Frey about bringing down the temperature? Yeah, it was posted a day ago. I imagine they probably posted this right before those phone calls.
In Minneapolis, we will not.
All right, what else? Do we have any other lives on here that we want to cover? No, they're too long. How about... We watched that one already. We could watch this.
Mr. President, it's all good. Prices are coming way down, and we have a lot of.
That's hard to hear. That's hard to listen to. I think that's about it. All right. Well, we gained ourselves 5 minutes. Let's move on to Elon Musk. We'll move over there early. Moving on to Elon Musk. All right. We'll just go top down. They stormed Walz's office today. Interesting. Now the Minnesota people are mad at them for working with Trump. Well, probably contributes to tormenting the whole world. Try Grokpedia. How Grokpedia works in a minute. Yeah, Grokpedia is pretty cool. I enjoy Grokpedia way more than Wikipedia and have contributed to some of the pages myself. And I will say it's not easy to get changes made. You have to. So what I've had to do to get changes made to Grokpedia is I actually have to go talk to Grok first and have it give me the right way to submit a change to Grokpedia, and that seems to work. Although I will say it doesn't, it tends to make the changes it wants to, not the full changes that you request. So I am still working on the Antichrist page, getting it to move that interpretation down and just start with the facts. That's my mission. That's my mission for 2026. Get a good page on Antichrist so that people can start with the facts before they get into people's interpretations. Because, man, those interpretations are a strong they're what did Jesus say? A little leaven leavens the whole loaf. The spirit of Antichrist leavens the whole loaf very quickly. Once people cling on to that, it is so hard to convince them otherwise. So it's best to start with all the facts first. Anyway, moving on to Elon Musk. Let's see, from Jeffrey Mead. This is why Democrats are panicking about immigration enforcement. The Electoral College base. Oh, here's a video we can listen to.
Forecast, which will be based off the 2030 census. So this is predicting if states will increase in electoral votes, decrease in electoral votes, or stay the same. If you pay attention, every single state that's decreasing in electoral votes is blue. Essentially, every state that's green is either red or trending red. You can argue or debate about Georgia, but my overall point still stands. This is terrifying for Democrats, and I'll explain why. This is also likely why Joe Biden let in millions upon millions of illegal immigrants and why we've seen Democrats fighting us so hard to enforce our immigration laws and deport these illegal immigrants. So 3 things are converging at once right now. The first one is people are moving from blue states to red states. The only reason California has been seeing consistent population gains is due to international migration to California. Americans are moving out of California to red states.
Yeah.
And again, why is this important? Because of apportionment. So let's take this a step back and let's just talk about off the jump when it comes to presidential elections. Electoral votes. Republicans start at an advantage when it comes to electoral votes, meaning there are more solid red states than there are solid blue states. So depending on how you look at it, Republicans start with around a 240 electoral vote baseline before the election even really begins. That's baked in. Democrats start with around a 200 to 210 electoral vote baseline. Republicans already have the advantage there, and that's essentially just off the rip. So let's think about this. I'm going to go back a little bit. First thing, Republicans already have a baked-in advantage when it comes to the Electoral College. They already start closer to 270 than Democrats do. Again, this is based off of solid red states versus solid blue states. Now here's the second thing. Individuals are moving out of blue states and moving to red states, which then in 2030, from then on, for the next 10 years, it will increase red states' electoral vote baseline. So once 2030 starts, the advantage for Republicans.
So, and I will say that it is their own damn fault for doing this, because there's a lot of blue states that are blue because of population density in the big cities. Washington is like this. In Washington, there are a lot of Republicans, but they're out in the country, and it's really Seattle that determines what passes, and there's a lot of speculation because they do mail-in voting. And no ID required for voting. So there's a lot of speculation on if they're cheating to accomplish that. But I know that there's a mass exodus of Republicans out of the state of Washington, which is just going to diminish those electoral votes that he's talking about.
Will even be larger. Now let's add the third thing, which is voter registration. Democrats are losing a ton of voters. Independents are gaining a ton of voters at Democrats' expense, and Republicans are gaining in voter registration. So now let's add those 3 things. Democrats have a lower baseline when it comes to electoral votes. The census shifts are going to lower their baseline even further when it gets to 2030. And they're having registration issues. They're losing voters. What is one way to offset this? Immigration. Remember, the census counts bodies, not citizens. So when Trump is deporting immigrants, this is harming Democrats because, again, they want to have a bunch of illegal immigrants in this country because it helps them protect the structure. They don't want to lose electoral votes. Well, if people are moving out of their states, what's the way they can increase their population? Import people. They don't want their baseline when it comes to electoral votes lowered. Again, import people. This is essentially one of the most effective ways they can fight back to stop the underlying structure from changing that would disadvantage them even further. This is why they're fighting us enforcing our immigration laws so aggressively, because it is existential for them in many ways. And this is why you see panic.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's right. Elon agrees as well. Makes sense. SpaceX, Grok Imagine. Man, I tell you, I saw a video yesterday. Somebody put together you can't believe your eyes anymore. You can't believe the videos you see anymore. And it was very convincing. He started off with himself in his office, and then he transformed into Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, AOC, just basically everybody, both sides, anybody. And the whole video was talking about how the video generation is getting so real, you cannot distinguish between truth and reality anymore. I think this is a fulfillment of, for if they say that Christ is in the desert, don't go. If he's in the inner room, don't go. Is this going to get very hard to, people are going to start making stupid claims and they're going to convince people, and it's going to cause people to do stuff that they wish they hadn't. Probably traps, to be honest. See, the European Commission launches an investigation into Grok. So why no investigation into ChatGPT or Gemini? Agreed. The difference of the left and right in a nutshell. Charlie Kirk Memorial. I gotta love memes. Charlie Kirk Memorial, just a simple candle light vigil. Alex Peretti Memorial, Molotov cocktail. Yeah. Fair. Oh, we don't need to learn about Grok Imagine. Okay, so this is from Libs of TikTok. Kenneth Moreno Guzman, an illegal alien from Mexico, sexually assaulted an 11-year-old girl at knife point in Georgia. Has a single Democrat spoken out about this? No. Grok Imagine. Let's see. If you are wondering why Democrats mass import illegal immigrants and don't want to deport any, here's why. We just watched a video about that. Grok Imagine stuff. All right, what is this? From Jason. So this is a repost from Donald Trump. Governor Tim Walz called me with a request to work together. This is the request Fury was talking about. With respect to Minnesota, it was a very good call, and we actually seem to be on a similar wavelength. I told Governor Walz that I would have Tom Homan call him, and that what we are looking for are any and all criminals that they have in their possession. The governor very respectfully understood that, and I will be speaking to him in the near future. He was happy that Tom Homan was going to Minnesota, and so am I. We have had such tremendous success in Washington, D.C., Memphis, Tennessee, and New Orleans, Louisiana, and virtually every other place that we have touched, and even in Minnesota. Crime is way down. Both Governor Walz and I want to make it better. President Donald J. Trump. And Jason said, and less than an hour later, y'all send me this. Okay. I imagine there's some context there we're missing. Whatever. Yum. Breaking. Spain is fast-tracking a decree to pass the legalization over 500,000 illegal immigrants. Illegal aliens. I think this might be the video where he initially takes on like several guys. Yikes. Breaking. Spain is fast-tracking a decree to pass the legalization of over 500,000 illegal aliens and asylum seekers today, which will provide them with full legal status in Europe and allow them to cross into any EU country for work or residency and give them welfare benefits. See, the invasions around the world in the name of padding the Electoral College, or whatever reason that they're being just ushered in to all the countries, makes me wonder what the next month is going to be like, especially with the rise in Iran, with the rise in the conflict with Iran, because there is a lot of Islamic imagery in the end times, like the whole beheading thing. I mean, like Christians don't do beheading, do they? Not anymore. That's like an Islamic practice. And the sending gifts to one another, it's an Islamic practice. Yeah. All right, moving on. So mainstream, we can just listen.
This is a Washington Post headline from 9 years ago, 2016. Meet the man the White House has honored for deporting illegal immigrants. And I would remind everyone in this room that it was former President Barack Hussein Obama who awarded a medal to Mr. Homan. So he's obviously very qualified. He has the full trust and faith of the president. He will continue to have these meetings in the hopes that ICE and local law enforcement can cooperate and work together to have successful immigration enforcement, as we've seen in almost every other state across the country. This is a Washington.
There are those in the immigrants' rights community who have argued passionately that we should simply provide those who are illegally with legal status, or at least ignore the laws on the books and put an end to deportation until we have better laws. And often this argument is framed in moral terms. Why should we punish people who are just trying to earn a living? I recognize the sense of compassion that drives this argument. But I believe such an indiscriminate approach would be both unwise and unfair. It would suggest to those thinking about coming here illegally that there will be no repercussions for such a decision. And this could lead to a surge in more illegal immigration. And it would also ignore the millions of people around the world who are waiting in line to come here legally.
Anyway, we don't have to listen to that whole thing. You get the point. Elon responds what he said because their stance has changed. The funny thing is a lot of the people who supported him have walked away from the Democrat movement. To the right. It's the whole political scene, the whole political landscape has changed, and it really seems to coincide with God's harvest. It's just like you got the dumb people on the left and the smart people on the right. I don't know. That might just be me, but that seems to be the way it is. X chat. We don't really need to read about that, or SpaceX, or Grok. What is this? TBC, the Boring Company, is thrilled to grateful to receive the first Las Vegas loop permit. Cool. All right, this is bad news from Dane. Rachel Anderson would have turned 32 years old this coming Wednesday, but that will never happen. She was murdered in 2018 by a complete stranger. Anthony Pardon broke into Rachel's apartment, hogtied her, gagged her, assaulted her, strangled, beat, and stabbed her over 50 times. Yikes. With a steak knife in, Anthony Pardon, who brutally, convicted for, this guy's got we'll just read this. Convicted for raping a 9-month-old infant, convictions for aggravated robbery, more rapes, attempted murder, registered sex offender, plus GPS monitored repeat violent offender. In what universe does an animal like that get another chance? Not in mine. Yet he was released from prison and he started raping and killing immediately all over again. The judges need to go to prison. The judgment needs to be poured out on these people. So you have been brain dead to believe WhatsApp is secure. You'd have to be brain dead to believe WhatsApp is secure in 2026. When we analyzed how WhatsApp implemented its encryption, we found multiple attack vectors. So that's from Pavlov Durov. Elon agrees and says true. From Liz Truss, we have a video.
That also brings me to your question about whether I would see myself moving to America. Unless they actually, get close to throwing me in jail, I will not leave because this is my home. And the whole part of, the whole point of everything that I do and everything that I say is that I want the land of my ancestors to be the land of my children. So
man,
I cannot.
I think
go.
Europe's
I love our continent. I
get
love
hit
Europe,
really
and,
hard.
It's worth fighting for. And if we flee, who else is going to do it? That also brings me to your question about whether I would see.
Yeah, I don't know. If I were her, I'd want to leave Europe right now because they're not doing anybody any favors over there. They ain't got no Trump fighting for them. Full self-driving stuff. Let's see. The researcher who put together these numbers was investigated and almost charged with a crime for bringing these numbers to light when she hadn't received permission. Now we have an update that goes through 2020. First, where are Sweden's rapists from? Mostly not from Sweden. Swedish-born. Let's see, what is this? Swedish-born, Swedish parents, 30%. Swedish-born, one parent from Sweden. Green. Swedish-born, no parents from Sweden. And over 50.6% born outside of Sweden. Yikes. Yeah, Europe is lost. I expect, I think if you're in the United States, and depending where you are in the United States, we very well could be the Church of Philadelphia over here, who is promised to be kept from the trials coming on the whole world, because there's a lot of places, man, pretty much anywhere other than the United States. I could be completely wrong. I mean, there are definitely a lot of unknown factors in the United States, but there is always that promise to the Church of Philadelphia to be kept from the trials that are coming on the whole world. I have to believe, based on what I've seen that's going on around the world and in other countries, that we are better situated to defend ourselves and to maybe not go through the trials that are coming on the whole world. Primarily because there's, like they say, there's a gun behind every blade of grass over here and 10 boxes of ammo. So there is just an immeasurable amount of unknown variables. So it would be very interesting if there is any kind of invading force, what they'll be able to accomplish here, compared to other countries. Other countries, it's just a given. They're disarmed and they're unable to really defend themselves. So, yeah. All right, moving on. Trans was a trend, one of the most disastrous trends in human history. Thankfully, the nightmare is fading. Yes. What is this? So this is from X-Freeze 13 hours ago. She wanted to stop ICE from deporting illegal aliens who kill American citizens. The left mourns her life. These girls were all American citizens who were killed by illegals. The left didn't mourn any of their lives. Yeah, that seems to be a theme. The left seems to mourn, the lower tiers of human beings, and could care less about the people who were murdered by illegal aliens. It seems to be a theme from Elon Musk. What is this? This is more charts. Let me get this straight. Prior administrations deported millions of people, and riots were basically non-existent. Let's see. The moment Trump took office, a coordinated campaign by politicians, legacy media directly called for resistance to ICE. Once riots happen and people die, the spotlight shifts to stopping deportations and defunding ICE. If this was such a crime against humanity, why did no one riot in 2024? The intention behind the unrest is not empathy. Empathy is being manufactured on false grounds to achieve political aims, and people are getting hurt. Yeah, I wish the people who are going out here to stand up against ICE would just take a minute. I don't know what's got going on in those heads of theirs.
Critical for moving from polarization to productivity is that the Wikipedians who write these articles aren't actually focused on finding the truth. They're working for something that's a little bit more attainable, which is the best of what we can know right now. And after 7 years there, I actually believe that they're onto something. That for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth isn't necessarily the best place to start. In fact, I think our reverence for the truth might have become a bit of a distraction that is preventing us from finding consensus and getting important things done. Now, none of that's to say that the truth isn't important. The truth obviously exists. It's at the core, or the search for the truth is at the core of some of our greatest human achievements. It can animate and inspire us to do, learn, and create great things. But I think in our messy human hearts, we also know that the truth is something of a fickle mistress, and that the beauty of the truth is actually often in the struggle. It's the reason that we have so many sublime chronicles of the human experience, because there are so many different truths to be explored. And so in this spirit, I know that the truth exists for each of you in this room. It also probably exists for the person sitting next to you. But the thing is, the two of you don't necessarily have the same truths.
Fair.
And this is because for many of us, truth is what we make when we merge facts about the world with our beliefs about the world. Each of us has our own truth, and it's probably a good one. It's based.
She's making a really good point. What does it say? People invent narratives and facts to suit desired objectives, and if enough people agree, that's the new reality. Yeah, I mean that applies at every single level, just both in life, reality, and even religion. Just because a majority of people believe something doesn't mean it's true, and in fact, that is more often the case. One of the hardest things to fight against, why you get disruptive technologies, is because the masses, the majority, accepts something as it is and does not like change. Then you get something disruptive that comes in and causes change, and it's a huge uphill battle. because of people's internal reality. So people who point out that the emperor has no clothes will be crushed. Catherine Marr of Wikipedia said it best herself. Our reverence for the truth is a hindrance to getting things done. Paraphrasing. We're living in a world where lies don't matter anymore. There are only words and how effective they are to reaching desired outcomes. People don't care about the truth. That seems like a fulfillment of prophecy. They care about achieving their goals. We're living in demon times. Yeah, 100%. But the good news is those demon times are coming to an end very soon. 2026 is going to be amazing. Hey, Elon, there's our guys. I love that. There's our boys. X Premium. All right, what do we got here? Wikipedia, Grokopedia. It won't even autocomplete Grokopedia. That's suspicious. That's from Google. This is not even our strongest model. Let's see. WhatsApp. Okay, we get the point. Grok. Imagine. Let's see. Charlie Kirk was asking for it by saying controversial. So this is from Sunny. Charlie Kirk was asking for it by saying controversial things. The National Guardsmen were asking for it by being present in D.C. when the left didn't want them to be. You can't hurt a guy just because he's engaging in armed obstruction of law enforcement. Same people. Oh, yeah, saying contradictory things. Yeah. All right, what is this? The Milky Way was the size of North America. The sun be... Huh. Wow. I really like illustrations like this. There's another one that does it with planets and the suns in different galaxies because it gives you an idea of just how big God is. God is far bigger than we can imagine. And I can imagine pretty big things. He's bigger than that. And so this video is showing if the Milky Way, which is just one galaxy in our universe that is visible, that is observable, if just the Milky Way were the size of the United States, just how small, parts of where we are. It's such an unfathomable size that it's just awe-inspiring. And God is responsible. I believe he's responsible for the entire universe. All right, David Santa Carla. He was unarmed and they killed him anyway. We said the same thing about you guys, and you guys laughed. I don't get it. All right, what is this?
At a corner store just up the street. The stabbing happened at the SS Quick Stop grocery store. Pierce County deputies say the victim told officers that the suspect asked what religion he was.
Oh, I think
and
we
when
watched
he said
this
he
yesterday.
was a Christian, the suspect reportedly stabbed him and his dog. Both were taken to hospitals in serious condition, and deputies say the dog went into emergency surgery. Deputies.
Yeah, we watched this yesterday. It's getting to be that time again to start walking around. I mean, we carry concealed, and if you're in a state that you can, I recommend that you do. it seems to be that we're getting to that time again where bad things happen. All right, so I think we're actually done with Elon Musk. Yeah, I think we saw these yesterday. All righty, let us move on to, let's see. Let's start with a little horn. Oh, here, we'll do this. We'll just do see, what order do I want to? I want to start with a little horn. So we'll start here by reading about the little horn just to set I want to set I want to frame this because I'm not really going to do a reaction video today. It's going to be more listening to the Prince of Iran talk about what's going on in Iran. And I want you to be aware of the most likely candidates for the little horn in Daniel 8. So let's go over and read Daniel 8. Yeah, let's do this. Over here to Daniel 8. It's not that long. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared to me, Daniel. After the one that appeared to me the first time, I saw in the vision, and it so happened while I was looking that I was in Shushan, the citadel, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in the vision that I was by the river Ulai. Then I lifted my eyes and saw, and there was standing beside the river was a ram, which had 2 horns. So, see, this is where some of the earliest records we have about nations and horns, and you're going to see how they're interpreted here, so that we can take what we learned from Daniel here and apply it to Revelation 13. That's one of the reasons why, we consider that a beast represents a government and horns represent leaders. It's from sections like this. So, by a river was a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high. But one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward, so that no animal could withstand him. Nor was there any that could deliver from his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, suddenly a male goat came from the west across the surface of the whole earth, interesting, without touching the ground, flying goats. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Then he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing beside the river, and ran at him with furious power. And I saw him confronting the ram. He was moved with rage against him, attacked the ram, and broke his 2 horns. There was no power in the ram to withstand him. But he cast him down to the ground and trampled him, and there was no one that could deliver the ram from his hand. Okay, so overwhelming force. Therefore the male goat grew very great. But when he became strong, the large horn was broken, and in place of it 4 notable ones came up towards the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came a little horn. This here is what most people are referring to when they say the word Antichrist in reference to the end times. And I wish people would just use the words that are written, because it would avoid a lot of confusion, and it would help people actually see all the full picture. I gave an example today of people who use the word Antichrist in places where it's not written. So if you insert the word Antichrist here, you're doing a huge disservice. Imagine you had a basket of fruit that has all manner of fruit in it: apples, bananas, oranges, grapes, maybe even some lemons and some limes and blueberries and strawberries, right? Well, if you were just to say, I have a basket of oranges, you lose a lot of information. Or even if you just say basket of fruit, but that's not as good of an example. It's more like saying I have a basket of oranges, because what you're doing is, because they're all fruits, Even though they have different flavors and attributes, you're still labeling them the same bloody thing. That's what people do when they insert the words that don't belong here. You're just causing confusion, and you're actually removing information from the picture. So I wish people would just use the word little horn. So this is why I won't insert the word Antichrist here, because there's nothing about this image that indicates Antichrist based on the attributes that are in the context where the word Antichrist is actually used. Anyway, moving on. And out of one of them came a little horn, which grew exceedingly great towards the south, towards the east, and towards the glorious land. And it grew up to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and some of the stars to the ground. Reminds me of the king of Babylon. Lucifer, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? Without its, So this is just a way of saying lifting themselves up high, I believe. Ego, elevating themselves above even God or even authorities that are above them. Let's see, it cast down some of the host and some of the stars to the ground and trampled them. He even exalted himself as high as the prince of the host, Jesus, and by him the daily sacrifices were taken away. So here we have, a tie-in to what we covered yesterday regarding the daily sacrifices. So this is the chapter before what we read yesterday. This is Daniel 8. Yesterday we read Daniel 9. Daniel 9 talking about bringing an end to sin, bringing an end to the transgression, those six things. He even exalted himself as high as the prince of the hosts, and by him. So this is one of the reasons why a lot of people think, okay, so this is him going into the temple of God as God, showing himself that he is God, because he's exalting himself as high as the host. Well, it doesn't mean that. Don't assume that, and don't insert that into the scripture here, because it's just going to make things confusing. So basically, he thinks he's above all. Obviously some type of a big shot. You know what I mean? All right. But because Jesus is king, Jesus is the prince of the host, right? And by him, the daily sacrifices were taken away. And the place of his sanctuary was cast down because of transgression. An army was given over to the horn, that's the little horn, to oppose the daily sacrifices. See, this actually makes me lean more towards the Romans 8 scripture where it talks, is it Romans 8 or Romans 6? I always get those mixed up. Romans 8, I think it is, where we are living sacrifices. This makes me think that this end time little horn opposing those who belong to God, right? Those who spend their time, who sacrifice their lives and energy, to spread the kingdom, right? So an army was given over to the horn to oppose the daily sacrifices. And I think this could also tie into, where you have the beast who's given authority to trample the saints or to persecute the saints for 42 months. So I'm leaning towards that, the saints and their work is what is the daily sacrifices. Just an assumption, but I think you can kind of see why I would think that. And he casts truth down to the ground. He did all of this and prospered. And then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to that certain one who was speaking, how long will the vision be concerning the daily sacrifices and the transgression of desolation? The giving of both the sanctuary and the host to be trampled underfoot. And he said to me, for 2,300 days, then the sanctuary will be cleansed. I read today, does this say something different in the King James? Whoops, where'd it go? Where's the 2,300? Understanding, but not by his own. Let's see, no, that's too far. Here it is. Until 2,300 days. All right, it says the same thing in King James and New King James. I read somewhere today that some interpretations of this, and the reason I bring this up is because one of the things that really eludes me in all of our timeline and observations is the day counts. I don't know if we've gotten any day count like really nailed down yet. There's a lot of interpretations of the 1,260 days, the 1,290 days, the 42 months, the 3.5 years, the time and a half of times. There's a lot of speculations, but I don't think we have them all perfectly aligned. It's almost like we have a pile of puzzle pieces off to the side that we're still trying to figure out how they fit in the puzzle. But I heard something interesting about this 2,300 days. One of the interpretations of this is that the days here is referring to evenings. It's referring to evenings and mornings, and that some interpretations of this, and maybe it's based on some other texts. I just learned about this today, so I don't know the basis of this. But one of the interpretations is this is actually 3.5 years. More specifically, 3 point, so it'd be, so if you were to take 2,300 and divide it in half, it equals out to be about 3.2 years or something like that, 1,250 days or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but today was the first I'd actually heard of even that interpretation of it. So I'm going to look more into that. Because the day counts is one of those things that eludes me, and the reason is because there's kind of an overwhelming number of variables, to where do you take the day counts to mean years? The 42 months really mean 42 months? When do you start counting? Those kind of things. Because I have yet to see from when we have an actual established start date of something where we apply a day count to it. It doesn't seem to land on anything of note. Case in point, on here, we've got, different candidates for the end of the 1,260 days. So if we were to start from the opening of seal number 4A, which would be October 7th, 2023, 1,260 days lands on March 20th. If we start 7 days later, it's March 27th. Or if we start from when Donald won the election, because there's a precedent for actually starting for that count, because seal number 2 started when the Electoral College declared Joe Biden to be the president. So this would be the equivalent of that. So do you start counting from that? That would end on 4/19/2028. Or do you start from the time when both Donald Trump and Elon Musk started working together, because the two witnesses prophesy for 1,260 days? If that's the case, then the end date is July 3rd, 2028. So the numbers count is one of the biggest puzzle pieces that elude me, just because I haven't nailed anything down yet that's just like, oh, that's definitely it. Like the Great Tribulation is becoming that, to where it's just like I'm more and more convinced that the Great Tribulation starts February 17th, 2026. But these day counts, man, they elude me. So yeah, so that was a new thing I heard, is that this actually represents evenings and days. So this is the expansion of evenings and days. I don't know. It could have just been a stupid interpretation, because to me, when I read 2,300 days, I mean, there's very little room for interpretation in my mind there. But man, if I can find something to make it fit, that would be great. Anyway, sorry, sideline. All right, so Gabriel interprets this vision. So anytime that someone has a vision, and it's, of things that don't naturally track, and you have an angel or a messenger interpret that vision, that gives us a lot of powerful data to work with for understanding future prophecies. So this section of scripture where you got Gabriel helping Daniel understand the vision is immensely powerful, because the definitions of the things in these visions is important later on. So here we go. Then it happened, when I, Daniel, had seen the vision and was seeking the meaning, that suddenly there stood before me one having the appearance of a man, and I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai. who called and said, Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. So he came near me, and I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell on my face. But he said to me, understand, son of man, that the vision refers to the time of the end. So this refers to us right now. We know we're in the time of the end because of the Revelation 12 sign. You know, in the book of Revelation, Revelation 12, 1 and 2, we know we're in the end time because this sign is so unique that it only happens really one time. There is another time that it kind of happens. And, you know, there is some circumstantial information about this one that this could be relevant. So this was, no, that's Jesus's birthday. Where is it? Going the wrong way. This one. So 8:30, 4:39. This is the only other one that is kind of close, but it's really not. There's some anomalies here. But this was really close to when I can't remember. I think it's the actually I don't remember. There may be I may be thinking of negative 4. I'm thinking of 430 BC. So yeah, there's nothing associated with this one. But this one, it doesn't even really perfectly fit. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, so because of this, we know we're in the time of the end. So when Gabriel is interpreting this vision, it directly applies to us right now, I think. Understand, son of man, the vision refers to the time of the end. Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep with my face to the ground, but he touched me and stood me upright. And he said, look, I am making known to you what shall happen in the latter time of the indignation, for at the appointed time the end shall be. The ram which you saw having 2 horns, they are the kings of Media and Persia. So there we have a definition of what horns are. They're kings. And the male goat is the kingdom of Greece. So you've got a beast or an animal that is associated with a country. And we still do this today. You know, we associate countries with animals. The United States with the bald eagle, Australia with the kangaroo, Russia with the bear. You get the point. The large horn that is between its eyes is the first king. As for the broken horn and the 4 that stood up in its place, 4 kingdoms. So here you have horns that also represent kingdoms. So there's a dual meaning there, which is one of the things that makes understanding Revelation 13 complicated, because you have beasts, heads, and horns. And idiots like to clump all those together and go, first beast, Antichrist, like a caveman. Sorry. 4 kingdoms shall arise out of that nation, but not with its power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors have reached their fullness, a king shall arise. A lot of people want to say that's Trump, but it ain't. Having fierce features, who understands sinister schemes. His power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. He shall destroy fearfully, and shall prosper and thrive. He shall destroy the mighty and also the holy people. Trump doesn't do that. Through his cunning, he shall cause deceit to prosper under his rule, and he shall exalt himself in his heart. People would like to think Trump does that, but he really doesn't. He shall destroy many in their prosperity. Trump does the opposite. He's making people rich. He shall even rise against the prince of princes. So this is somebody who thinks they're hot shit, who probably doesn't support Yeshua. But he shall be broken without human means. And the vision of the evenings and mornings, which was told, is true. Oh, this is where they get the evenings and mornings, the 2300 days. Yeah, okay, I get that. So in the vision of the evenings and mornings, which was told is true, therefore seal up the vision, for it refers to many days in the future. All right, so now I want to show you what the prompt is that I gave Grok about this. Because if you go about this, if you just tell Grok to, so I did this one way. The first time I asked it, if Daniel 8 is referring to today, then who is the little horn? Which of the world leader fits the attributes? If you prompt it this way, you're going to get all the bogus interpretations and all the conspiracy BS. Don't do this. It's not true. So here's how I prompted. Let's see. Nope. I prompted it again after this. Here's what I prompted. Okay. Please ignore modern interpretations. The thing about prophecy, about the future, everything is a guess until the future comes. Also, do not insert words which are not in the text, like Antichrist. The attributes from the context where that word is actually used do not match Daniel 7 or 8. The primary attributes of Antichrist being deny the Father and the Son, deny Jesus is the Messiah, deny Jesus came in the flesh, are not seen in Daniel, so let's not make stupid assumptions like that. All right. Using only what is actually written in Daniel 8 and what Gabriel defines, extrapolate who the little horn could be today. Do not include people like Trump. He does not blaspheme God or lift himself up. Only include world rulers from the possible regions. And this is the important part right here. Trump is from Scotland. He's got nothing to do with the regions where this prophecy takes place, which is Greece, Turkey, Iran, Syria, Egypt. Come on, people. So possible regions who fit the actual attributes written in the text. So this time it came up with really interesting potential fits. So the first one is the Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who is the president of Turkey. Turkey, ancient Asia Minor, part of the Lysimachus and later Seleucid. I'll get that wrong. From the Seleucid Attalid divisions. So textual fit, expansion towards southeast, military operations in Syria, Iraq, Libya, influences in Azerbaijan. They just joined the Board of Peace. Magnifies himself in heart to prince of hosts. Positions as leader to the broader Islamic world. Extends presidential powers via policies. In other words, he gives himself power. Fierce countenance, authoritarian rule, suppressing opposition, understands dark sentences, causes craft to prosper, cunning diplomatic maneuvers, alliances shifting between powers. Power not by own. He relies on the military mandates, foreign alliances like Russia and Iran, and destroys by peace. Involved in peace boards for Gaza while supporting anti-Israel stances. See, these are the things that we should be paying attention to. Calling for alliances against perceived threats, because this is persecuting the holy people and the saints. Calling for alliances against perceived threats, prosper practices, maintains long-term rule amid regional influence growth, destroys mighty holy people, interventions in Syria, Iraq affecting populations, opposition to Israel as pleasant land proxy. All right, so that's number one. Really good candidate. Yeah, Fury says, we are noticing Turkey in that context and have been expecting something along that line because of Turkey's alignment against Israel. Yes, good point. All right, next one. This one is the one that I think is interesting because we're going to watch this video that Yisrael Goldstein posted because the Prince of Iran, he is not in power. I believe this guy is Ali Khamenei, supreme leader of Iran. Iran is ancient Mesopotamia / Persia, incorporated into the Seleucid division. So expansion towards the southeast, proxies in Yemen, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, targeting Israel as the pleasant land. Magnifies himself in heart to prince of hosts, exalts as the supreme religious authority. He is seen as an infallible guide. Fierce countenance. Oh, you can't see my mouse over here. Fierce countenance. Shoot, lost my spot. Fierce countenance. Harsh suppression of protests. Yeah, it just killed like 33,000 people. Understands dark sentences. Causes craft to prosper. Strategic use of proxies. Deceptive diplomacy. Power not by own. Relies on IRGC. Foreign alliances like Russia and China, destroys by peace, supports resistance networks under peace rhetoric while enabling attacks, prospers and practices, endures amid regional axis building, destroys mighty holy people, actions against Israel via proxies, internal destruction of dissenters, stands up against the prince, opposes entities tied to hosts. Yep. And then finally, we have Ahmed al-Shara from Syria. Expansion towards southeast, consider consolidation, control post overthrow, potential pushes into borders, magnifies himself in heart to prince of hosts, rose from jihadist leader to national ruler, rebrands as moderate while holding power, fierce countenance, history of brutal civil wars tactics, understands dark sentences, causes craft to prosper, shifted from Al-Qaeda, affiliate to diplomatic figure via cunning rebranding, power not by own, he's backed by Turkey and rebel coalitions, and destroys by peace, halts offensives for stability while building alliances, prospers and practices recent rise to power after overthrow, destroys mighty holy people, overthrew prior regime, potential anti-Israel stance. So these, I'm not saying that these are it, but these are way better candidates than most people come to because they just don't think properly because they're confused by a basket of oranges and not looking at all the fruit. It's a pretty good analogy. All right, now with that, now we have an understanding. I really want to focus on Turkey. No, Iran. I want to focus on Iran because that is what's really in the news today. And we're sending a lot of military over there. And let's see, what's the date? We're like 20 days away from February 17th. So yeah, I think Iran, we should be paying close attention to what's going on over there because it would seem that seems to be pivotal to Great Tribulation for when they say peace and safety and possibly the rise of this little horn in the end times, like it says in Daniel 8. So let us go over here and watch this.
That were shot by military weapons. They are chasing them now in hospitals, finishing the job of wounded people, raping women in their homes. The amount of brutality that has happened has been unprecedented, but the resolve of my compatriot is still there. It started from the bazaar in Tehran and quickly spread to the four corners of Iran. Millions of people came out. Millions of people started protesting death to the dictator, asking for their liberty.
Excitement on the horizon in what's happening in Iran. Let's hear from the most prominent exiled, Reza Pahlavi, the son of the former Shah, the head of Iran, who has been exiled. Let's listen to him as he shares with us of what's really happening on the ground in live time.
So you have called on the Iranian people to rise up and oppose this regime. A lot of Iranians are doing that. A lot of them are being killed by the regime. Are you confident that this uprising will work?
Jake, first and foremost, I must say that unlike previous campaigns, and as a continuation of it, this time the people came to the streets because they have had it with this regime. It's a true revolution. But the regime, unfortunately, has started waging war against its own citizenry. Defenseless people that were shot by military weapons, they are chasing them now in hospitals, finishing the job of wounded people, raping women in their homes. The amount of brutality that has happened has been unprecedented, but the resolve of my compatriot is still there. It started from the bazaar in Tehran and quickly spread to the four corners of Iran. Millions of people came out. Millions of people started protesting death to the dictator, asking for their liberty. And this is a movement that will ultimately succeed. We had a stumbling block, which was the regime panicking, cutting us from the world by shutting down the internet, making communication impossible. But the news has trickled out. And as of yesterday, when I spoke to a few of our political prisoners, they were telling us the amount of casualties that we thought would be not as much as was originally reported, but Tehran alone had over 15,000 people killed, and I think across the country is well over 20,000, maybe even more than that.
Obviously, it's the fault of the regime.
I think this is probably why the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet is associated with the Al-Aqsa flood. Iran was supposed to be one of the big forces, along with Hamas, that was supposed to go in, but Hamas went in early, so the full destruction didn't happen, which I believe lines up with Revelation 12 that says that the dragon cast out, or was it the serpent, cast out a flood after the woman, but the earth helped the woman and swallowed up the flood. That seems to be the case with the Al-Aqsa flood. It was intended to be complete, total annihilation, but Hamas seemed to have gone in early, and therefore it only resulted in 1,200 deaths and 250 hostages. A lot more deaths in the long run as a result of that. But that initiated that period of time of seal number 4, which there's just been such a massive amount of death that we don't even know about, death that has been hidden from people because they don't have internet. Nobody has internet to be able to share these things. This seems to be, I think that's probably part of how the daily sacrifices could potentially being removed. And I know a lot of people are looking for this guy to go into a temple and declare himself God and take away sacrifices. You got to keep in mind, there is no temple right now, and there are no daily sacrifices in that regards. So if we're seeing things happen, it's prudent to evaluate if there's, could be a fulfillment that deviates from what we may have assumed was going to happen. It's just good practice to pay attention, because that's what Jesus told us to do. He said, be watchful.
And we all hope that the Iranian people get the government they deserve and democracy and freedom. Obviously, it's the fault of the regime, all these deaths, but do you feel any responsibility having called for this uprising?
Well, they called me to step in. Millions of people chanted my name, asking for my leadership, for my return. And it is in support of the movement that we called for maximum togetherness so that they are not spread as a crowd. And it started pushing back elements with the regime. As a result of it, we started to see some initial refusal to go back to work. There were members of the police force who didn't show up to work, some military elements. Even the regime killed a few policemen who refused to engage with the people. So we already see the momentum shifting. The regime panicked and as a result created this blackout. But the momentum might have slowed down in terms of people be able to continue beyond the street. But we know that once the regime is hopefully targeted in terms of its force of repression being neutralized, if indeed, as President Trump announced, there will be some retaliation for them doing what they did to the people, that will give people another opportunity to then finish the job at the end. People are committed to do that. Millions of people have died. And the biggest message that they wanted me to convey to our viewers is that they are not fighting this fight for themselves. They are fighting for humanity and liberty all around the world. That's the Iranian people who are, unlike this regime, has always been anti-Western, anti-American principle. Iranians want to have the best of relationship with America. And we had it before.
And you know that there are a lot of Iranians who hate the regime who are also critics of yours. And I want to give you an opportunity to respond to some of their criticism. One of them is that you say you want to unite the Iranian people, but you weren't able to keep a coalition of like-minded Iranians together at Georgetown. That group quickly disbanded. Why do you think you're going to be able to unite the country?
Well, first of all, you have right causes and the wrong players. But when I was in Munich 3 months ago, we had a conference that had the widest spread and diversity of representation of its kind as part of the unity movement. We had people from the left, people from the right, Republicans, monarchists, socialists, representative of ethnic groups, representative of religious minorities, athletes, artists, that were all gathered there. And the principle is very simple, Jake. What are we united on in terms of the core principles?
Ending the regime.
But there are 4 key principles that you said like-minded. How do we define it? First and foremost is Iran territorial integrity, which is very important. Number 2 is separation of church from state as a prerequisite to democracy. Number 3 is, of course, equality under the law of all citizens and individual liberties. And all of this so we can conduct free elections, so it's the Iranian people who determine the outcome. I'm stepping in as a leader of transition at their call. My job is to make sure that we can see this through. We have a plan for the post-regime collapse to stabilize the situation, allow maximum defections, keep the most of the bureaucracy intact so the country continues functioning, and then prepare the grounds for the election of a constitutional assembly, where whatever opinions people may have, they have a chance to debate it and be presented with a constitutional project and then be ratified by referendum.
On that matter of continuity in government, last summer, July, you announced that more than 50,000 officials from the military, from the Iranian government, had submitted to a Google form that you set up that they wanted to defect from the current regime. Did you verify those numbers? Do those names, is the number still 50,000? And where have those defectors gone? What happened to them?
It's more than that. 2 days before the internet shutdown, we have over 100,000 people, new applicants to a platform that we had created a few months before, adding to the numbers that had already started joining. Among them, you find members of the military, paramilitary, police forces, but also a lot of people who are in the civil bureaucracy, working in ministries and so on and so forth. Diplomats and others, and we're beginning to see signs of more and more people, refusing to go back to work or literally defecting. It is very important because it's part of our process. You see, one of the lessons learned from de-Baathification in Iraq was really a bad example of how you manage a change of regime. And in the case of Iran, you don't have the problem you saw happen there in the de-Baathification. We are trying to be inclusive as much as possible of all those who can survive regime change and have a place in the future, except for the people who have their hands soiled with the blood of the Iranians, and they will have a count in the court of justice at some point. But the majority of them can survive that change and have a place for them tomorrow.
So lastly, sir, President Trump's position vis-a-vis the Iranian people, he keeps threatening that he'll take action if the Iranian regime keeps killing innocent Iranians. They keep killing innocent Iranians. At one point he said, I was told the killing stopped, but it hasn't.
Unfortunately, it hasn't.
Do you think what he...
So just so you know, the population in Iran is estimated to be around 92 to 93 million people.
He's doing, his position, separate and apart from the nuclear strikes, has been helpful? Is it beneficial?
It's the expectation of a nation, because a lot of people took courage in the words of a president who said, I'm not going to be another Barack Obama. I'm not going to throw you under the bus. And people took that very seriously. And in fact, a lot of people now are hoping that in this totally unfair conflict where the regime is massacring them and they have no choice to defend themselves because they're unarmed, something is going to tilt the balance in their favor. And the best way to do that and save lives at the same time is to strike the regime when they're the most vulnerable and at the same time they're instrument of repression. We're talking IRGC, we're talking instances that is collectively their instrument of repression, but there can also be additional aspect to that, economic isolation of the regime. And I think a lot of governments now in Europe are considering bringing even more sanctions on the regime. This is a time to act. I think the expectation of the people who have bravely gone to the street, many of them have died, that they haven't died in vain. They expect the world this time, beyond just condemnation, behind resolution, actually take steps to put the pressure on the regime.
So just to be clear, you're saying that you think it's time for the U.S. and the West to act beyond just words with economic sanctions that are tougher, but also military strikes against the Revolutionary Guard.
There's no other way to help unarmed people when they're facing this level of...
I kind of wonder, it makes me wonder if there wasn't some kind of an incursion with Iran, if that wouldn't also cause sparks with China and Russia.
Brutality that the regime has exerted against them. The only chance is to see a cavalry that arrives and we can hold the fort up to a point. At some point, we need to get that air cover, and that will change the balance in favor of the people. Okay. Hopefully, Iranians will be able to liberate themselves.
All right, Reza Pahlavi, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
I'm sorry.
Words.
What an amazing interview, and thank you so much. It's been so many years in the making since Mr., as they known as Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, has been anticipating and waiting for this moment to happen. Since 1979, when his father, the Shah, was exiled, Iran went from living in total liberty and freedoms into total captivity. 90 million Iranians lost their human rights and their religious freedom. When this deadly regime took over, the radical Islamists took over Iran and they began executing by the thousands for minor infractions on religious basis. People no longer had religious freedom. And this is something that does not belong in the 21st century. Religious freedom is a right for every human being to be able to practice whatever religion they chose. Religion is about faith. It's about being committed to God and being godly and acting godly. Religion has no place when it comes to taking another person's rights away or by persecuting or worse, killing people in the name of religion.
Yeah, amen.
And that is what has been happening since 1979. When we listen to the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, there is a sense of optimism that he has, that he's hoping for. He did mention that prior to the outage of the internet, there were thousands of those who joined the movement, both from the government, from the army, and from other sectors. And this is something new that has shown that the homegrown opposition to the government is growing stronger and stronger. But what's happening in Iran, the peril of the Iranian people that are there, it's not just about the 90 million Iranians that are suffering from this tyranny, but it's also the rest of the world. We now know Iran's reach was not just regional in the Middle East.
That's right.
But it has its stretch throughout the world.
Yeah. This is the reason why I'm bringing attention to this, is because it feels like, given everything we're able to observe, it seems like, really does seem like this could be the Great Tribulation. It's so close. So many pieces are set in position to where, effectively the entire world has been invaded by Islam. And it seems as though they're just waiting for the go sign. And that seems to be like it might be the Great Tribulation. I think we'll probably have less here in the United States. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. Honestly, we don't even know how many people came into our country during the Biden administration. We just know that it was an innumerable amount. They estimate between, 10 and 25 million, or 10 to 30 million, if you want to use round numbers. Which, there's 300 million people in the United States. That's 10% of the population. 10% can do a lot of damage if it's allowed to go unchecked. So, just one of the things to be mindful of, to be prepared for.
As far as Australia, when a synagogue was bombed, the Australian government expelled the Iranian consulate because we found ties from Iran to the bombing of the synagogue in Australia.
Yep.
During the last 2 years of the Gaza war, when the mantras, the rhetoric was being allowed to be chanted on the streets of cities, on the college campuses, whether it was about free Palestine from the river to the sea, or the globalization of the Intifada. Well, yes, the Intifada is now globalized, not only in a synagogue that was firebombed in Australia, but look what just happened on December 14, 2025, the first night of Hanukkah in Bondi Beach, Sydney, Australia. This is very close and personal to myself personally, because the event that happened on Bondi Beach on the first night of Hanukkah was an event that my brother-in-law and my youngest sister hosted for the last 40 years. Being that Australia is always the first to welcome in the New Year's, always the first to welcome in new seasons, new holidays, because of their time zone, they were always the first. Every New Year's, the Opera House fireworks are the first to usher in, herald in the New Year's. So my brother-in-law and youngest sister always hosted the very first Hanukkah candle. Their son-in-law, Rabbi Eli Schlenger, who was his assistant and administrator, was putting together this beautiful program. A large majority of the attendees were former refugees of the former Soviet Union. And that is my brother-in-law, who was born in Russia, was appointed to be the rabbi of the Russian Jewish community to help them get resettled in Sydney, Australia, that he has done triumphantly, beautifully in the course of the last 40 years. So the majority of the people that were there were those that fled Russia because of the persecution that they were subjected to because of their religion. And they came to Australia to feel safe and to feel secure. That was true until December 14th.
Yeah, the thing about Australia, known for having one of the strictest gun control governments in the world, they really are a nanny state. When I would visit Australia, I would often get up early in the morning, 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, to go swimming at Bondi Beach. And you could be walking down alleys in America, you'd get jumped. There'd be the ghetto. So there was definitely a real sense of safety in Australia because of the way their government works. However, during the times of pressure and stress, worst place in the world to be because of that. So like what they did during COVID is a crime against humanity. I mean, they literally were going into, from what I understand, they were literally going into pet shops and just killing all the animals so people wouldn't have a reason to go into the pet shops. And there was a severe lockdown. They were putting people in camps. It was really bad. You're completely powerless there. And then you have this shooting on Bondi Beach. Why do Islamists have the guns and the people don't? So, yeah, shame on you, Australia.
2025, when they gathered and getting ready to light the very first candle, heralding in the Hanukkah season of 2025. The symbol of Hanukkah is a symbol of 2,000 years ago, where it was the very first religious war that happened on the soil of Israel. Yes, the Jewish people were living in Israel 2,000 years ago. That's years before the great-grandfather of Muhammad was even conceived.
Yep.
Yes, the Jewish people are the indigenous people, the natural people who lived in Israel for thousands of years. As they were getting ready this year to light the menorah, a father and a son, Islamists, Muslim, devout, ISIS-inspired, took two heavy, very powerful rifles and shot and killed as many people as they tried to. 15 people were shot dead, including my very own nephew, Rabbi Eli Schlenger, 41 years old, leaving behind a widow, my niece, and 5 beautiful children, the youngest being 2 months old.
Very sad.
This is the result of the Islamist, of radical Islam, a jihadist that is born and bred on the soil of Iran.
Yep.
This is the war that we are up against. And this is why it is so important for the world to come together and support the counter-revolutionaries who are trying so hard. Now, the one big question we ought to ask ourselves.
The other interesting thing about Iran, so in the end time, so in Revelation 17, it talks about the harlot which sits on 7 hills. Both Rome and, as I understand it, Iran have 7 hills that could fit that description.
Where are the protests in the streets? Iran just massacred close to 30,000 innocent civilians.
Wow.
Where's the world outcry? Why isn't the United Nations gathering together and drawing up condemnations? Why aren't there protests in the streets? Why isn't the Harbor Bridge?
You notice Trump doesn't annihilate the protesters in the streets. Just want to point that out, the differences of if anybody wants to leave the U.S. to go to some place with less protections, They're allowed to even carry guns to the riots and to the protests in the United States. And we don't have a government that goes in and slaughters 30,000 people. That is a very large number of people.
Sydney, packed with thousands and thousands of people chanting against the Iranian government for massacring 30,000 Iranians, innocent Iranians. Where are the encampments on the campus? Where are the flotillas? Where's Greta? Where's everybody? How come it's quiet? Why is there such silence in the world versus mass protests, at least equally to what happened during the Gaza war? You know what the answer is? Because these aren't Israelis. It's not the Jews. Only when the Jews are fighting for their survival are they to be called all these names of genociders, baby killers, as we have heard over the last 2 years. Ask yourself the question, doesn't it make sense to you now? Why is there no outcry about these 30,000 innocent Iranians that was just killed? And that is what anti-Semitism is all about. And this is exactly what's happening right now in Iran. We have an opportunity now, the free world has an opportunity now to help topple this regime and get rid of this radical Islamists whose only mission in life is, their mission statement is, death to America, death to Israel, death to the West.
Yep.
And we need to believe them because that is what they believe. And we have learned from history, when your enemy wants to kill you, they mean it.
Yeah.
Well, now we have a chance to challenge that. We see what happened with the blackout of the internet. Sorry. And we see what happens with 90 million people who are basically held in one huge concentration camp by this regime. They deserve to be freed. They deserve to have their religious rights restored and the human rights restored. Before 1979, these people were living a free life. But those of us who know, who have been living in Iran prior to 1979, know that their relations with Israel and the West were as tight as ever. They were allies. Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, whether he's going to be the next leader of a democracy and will be voted in with a true democracy or not, but he made a pledge. He made it very clear that when Iran gets its liberties back and a democratic government is once again installed and leading the world with a democracy, then the very first thing he wants to do is to renew the relations with Israel and the West and America.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be an incredible 180?
That'd be great.
From the chanting that goes on now, death to America, death to Israel, of having diplomatic relations with Israel and becoming an ally of Israel and the United States. This is attainable and it's doable. We can make this happen. We need to support those protesters, the anti-revolutionary. We need to be there for them and do whatever we can to help them. Those 30,000 who just got killed in the last 3 weeks, their deaths cannot be in vain.
And I'll also add, so you've got 30,000 in Iran, but also there's 30,000 who die in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. According to Donald Trump, he keeps floating that number out there that it's 7,000 to 10,000 people per week are dying. So there's a lot of death going on around the world. If you're not going through tribulation yourself, count yourself lucky, because right now things are really escalating. And I wish I could be optimistic like he is that things are going to get better from this point forward. But given what we know, February 17th, 2026 is going to be a very revealing day. If nothing happens and peace begins to escalate, great. But it seems as though, given what's going on around the world, that we could be looking at an event starting on February 17th that unfortunately takes us in the other direction. Potentially the start of the Great Tribulation. And if you haven't seen the videos from this from the last week or so, the reason we believe that is, we're, according to the data, according to the events that have happened on the earth that match up with, signs in the heavens and what's written in the scripture, we're in seal number 4. That basically started with the Al-Aqsa flood. And seal number 5 is the conclusion of seal number 4. But if you read in Matthew, if you come over here and you read in Matthew, so this is seal number 4. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house. And let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days. And pray that your flight may not be in winter. This was very likely the Al-Aqsa flood. There's a lot of parallels with that. You might be asking yourself, how is that the abomination of desolation? Well, Luke 21 gives us additional insights. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, know that its desolation is near. And there is seal number 4. Seal number 5, we're assuming that this is seal number 5. It's not clearly labeled as seal number 5. But the fact that this right here, the second coming, for as lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For wherever the carcass is, there the vultures will be gathered. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the heavens, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds. That seems to be seal number 6. If you come in here and you read about seal number 6, and I looked when he opened the 6th seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth of hair. The moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to earth as fig trees drop their late figs, shaken by a mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island moved out of its place. So there you got seal number 6. So you got seal number 4 here, seal number 6 here. It stands to reason that this is seal number 5. For then there will be great tribulation, such has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. I believe this is indicative of nuclear war. You've got the nuclear power players at odds here: Russia, China, the United States. It wouldn't surprise me if Russia and China aren't involved with Iran, if they don't support the Ayatollah's agenda, and things don't pop off here in February. I could totally see that's where we could be going there. No flesh would be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. Then if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there, do not believe it. So this tells me that even if it is nuclear war, we'll probably still have computers, because I imagine that there's still going to be artificial intelligence deception during this time. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, probably via YouTube, TikTok, the like, if possible, even the elect. See, I've told you beforehand. See, this comes from Jesus. This is the whole reason we're doing this, is because this is a callback to John 14:29. See, I've told you these things before they come to pass, so that when they do happen, you will believe. He says it here, see, I have told you beforehand. Therefore, if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go out. Look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. I almost wonder if this could be dangerous. If they don't try to, and this could be like an Islamic tactic, to where if they try and use some kind of deception to get crowds of people into places where they can attack them. So remember, if there's potentially 10% of our population could be invaders that intend to harm Americans. One of the tricks they could use is try and get people to gather together in different places in order to attack them. So I could see that as being a part of that. I hope I'm wrong, but we do seem to be on this timeline. And as terrible as all of this sounds, you have to remember these things must come to pass. And the point is, because what we read yesterday in Daniel 9, we're sealing up. Do I have Daniel 9 on here anymore? Here, we'll go here. This is the point. This is what's happening. Let's see, 70 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 70 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublesome times. And after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, done, but not for himself. And the people of the Prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood. Until the end of the war, desolations are determined. This already happened, I believe. And we're just bringing a conclusion to this part. Until the end of the war, desolations are determined. The Jewish people talk about their constant struggle with tribulation and desolation. Until the end, the desolations are determined. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation, which is determined, is poured out on the desolate. I kind of think that we might be here because the eclipse that happens on February 17th, which marks this date as being I guess you could say high watch time for seal number 5. It's in Aquarius. So Aquarius is the guy who's got the yoke where he can balance 2 buckets of water, and he's pouring out a bucket of water. So that can be interpreted as Holy Spirit. A lot of different ways, but one of the ways of looking at it is pouring out judgment. So the fact that the word pouring is used here makes me think, which is determined, is poured out on the desolate. So it makes me think that that's about where we are. So we're really close to the end. So like all this stuff that's happening around the world is bringing an end to sin and the transgression. And the good news is we're very likely going to see Yeshua in 2026. I mean, by all accounts, it's looking that way. And you might be wondering, well, what about the rest of the seals and the rest of the timeline? Don't worry. There's a lot more that still needs to happen. I mean, all this stuff continues to go probably until about 2030, 2031. It's just in seal number 5 and seal number 6, this seems to be the Great Tribulation. This seems to be when the earth rotates. That's if you got time tonight, I would recommend going to, let me go get that URL for you. It's called disastercycle.film. If you want to watch that disaster cycle documentary from Ben Davidson, this is definitely worth your time. I believe this is talking about seal number 6. I don't think they're right on their timeline because they're still projecting 30 years. And by all accounts, it could be as early as 2026. But that's where we are. I think this stuff's that's the good news, right? Look up, your redemption draws nigh. This will be a period of time that we don't even remember, like birth pains. Jesus said that you needed to be born again to enter the kingdom, right? Well, I think the birth is about to happen, and that is always a joyous occasion, even if the world seems to be on fire. And with that, I'm going to leave you guys. Do we have anything in the chat that we want to talk about before we go? Fury says, we are noticing that Turkey in that context and have been expecting something along the lines because Turkey's alignment against Israel. The Iranian Khamenei will be going out soon, we hope, but not without a fight. He could start a world war. Yeah, that's what it's looking like. I'm wondering. Don't trust Ahmed al-Shara. He is persecuting and killing Christians. Russia is already there and is giving money and weapons to Iran. Yikes. First the Saturday people, then the Sunday people. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. This has been your Daily Torment Report, and you're addressing the House of Israel, as well as your timeline update. We will be here again tomorrow at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you like this content, make sure you hit the like button. It helps immensely. And subscribe to the video. And if you will, share this on all your socials so other people can be aware. I do think it's worth telling people about February 17th. Even if you sound like a crazy person, send them over to me and let me seem like the crazy person. Say, hey, I found this crazy guy on YouTube who says the Great Tribulation is probably going to start in February. And then send them to our videos. Thank you so much. God bless you guys. Shalom, shalom. Keep looking up. God bless.